I got a big pile of I'm gonna stand right here. Hi, I'm sayakatcosplay and I have no chill. So I made Wanda's headpiece from Wandavision. This is made from foam and warbler. I have a pattern available on my web store for this headpiece, for this crown. If you'd like to make it for yourself, check out my web store for the pattern. And this is a tutorial for how to make this headpiece. It's really easy to make. It doesn't take that long. I made this in a day. Let's get into how to make this lovely crown. First step in making this headpiece is to make a pattern. I'm using some reference images from the web and on my phone, some photos I have saved to draw out the reference that I need. I'm also taking some measurements of my head. So this is sized for me. This pattern is sized for my head. So if your head is bigger than mine, you may want to resize the pattern if you do go ahead and purchase the pattern from my web store. So I'm going to be getting a few measurements, looking at all the reference photos, and then sketching it out. Okay, I have a pattern. If you don't want to make a pattern for yourself, I have this digitized and available on my web store. So what I'm going to do is make a base piece, cut out a base of 2mm foam, and then cut this pattern up and cut out all the details out of 2mm foam, and then glue those two layers together. And if you don't have warbler, you can leave it as is. You don't have to cover this thing in warbler, but I am going to be covering this in warbler so that it's more sturdy and will hold its shape. If it's just 2mm foam, it may be a little, flimsy. If you use warbler, it's going to be a little bit more stable. If you wanted, you could just use warbler as the backing and then cover it in craft foam and not have to cover the front in warbler. So there's still a lot of different options and ways to go about this. I'm going to cover the whole thing in warbler, both front and back. And all right, so now it's time to cut out some foam. For the craft foam core, I'm just using hot glue and cutting everything out and gluing everything down and getting it ready to be sandwiched in warbler. Okay, I have the warbler cut out. The craft foam is ready to go. Everything's been glued down. And so now I'm going to heat up the warbler. I'm going to heat up this side and start to push everything in and get everything covered. So we gotta heat up a lot of stuff. I keep saying warbler, but I'm using black warbler here. And I'm going to be using some clay tools to manipulate the warbler and to push it into the very small areas between the craft foam detail pieces. It does end up ripping a little bit in places, but that is fixable and not really noticeable once you've painted the piece. So this part is a little bit tricky. If you've never worked with a warbler before, it is going to take a little bit of finagling to get the warbler to push into the very small detail cracks basically between the craft foam pieces. So I'm using both my fingernails, as I have slightly longer nails, and these clay molding tools to push the warbler in, so that all the craft foam details get picked up by the warbler. I'm heating all of the Warbler up at first just to kind of make it a little bit more malleable. But I'm going to be working in small sections, a little bit at a time, to get the Warbler to pick up all the details. And then once the Warbler has been pushed into the front and all the details are there, I'm then going to heat the piece up and bend it around my head. I'm going to heat it up, and then once it's cooled a little bit, I'm going to actually hold it to my head to get it to bend into the proper shape. If I see anything kind of wacky or the shape's not quite right, I can reheat the piece and bend it again and get it into the final shape that I'm happy with. At this point, it is ready for primer and paint. Okay, I have this bent. I had to do a lot of that off camera just because I needed to bend it onto my own head. When you're making something out of Warbler, you need to be able to have something to model it onto. I went and sat in front of the mirror and bent this onto my own head. So now is the time to prime and then paint. So it's really not that involved of a process. We got a foam, we got a Warbler, and now I'm going to use Hex Flex and brush on some primer and primer this so that's a little bit smoother, and then paint. And it's a pretty easy paint job. It's just black and a very dark red maroon color. So I'm going to go ahead and prime this and then wait a little bit for the primer to dry and then paint. Okay, I have put 2 layers of primer on this and 1 layer of black paint off camera, and now I'm ready to do the final paint. I'm going to be doing a dark red on this. I'm almost out of red paint, so hopefully there's some in here. There we go. Painted! More or less. I'm gonna go in and clean up a little bit with a little bit of black here and there where I may have gotten some red by accident, but I think it looks pretty good. I have to let it dry and then we'll get some reveal shots. Alright folks, thank you for watching today. If you have any other questions about how I made this headpiece, please leave a comment down below. Don't forget to hit the like button and the subscribe button and maybe that bell notification so you are notified for the next time I put up a new video. See you in the next one.